Hey up, welcome to the Cannon Hall Farm podcast with us, the Nicholson brothers, farmers Rob and Dave.
We're two Yorkshire farmers who, along with our dad Roger, brother Rich and the rest of our family, have turned a farm with 2 sheds and a barn into an award-winning tourist attraction.
You've seen us on the telly, live on Facebook, and now we're here with our brand new podcast.
Across this series, we'll be looking at the key moments that got Cannon Hall Farm to the place we're at today.
On today's episode, we're going to be joined by my brother Richard, my dad Roger, and we're going to share their memories of when we opened the farm back in 1989.
I brewed my beer up there, didn't I?
Using a fish tank heater.
Yeah.
I didn't sample it, but you did, and you had 2 weeks off school.
I got Busy week, Dave?
Really busy. We got the commercial flock in, we wormed all the ewes, all the lambs, and then put them out on some nice fresh pasture.
Fabulous. Well, you'll be glad to know I've been mating again.
You're joking.
No, I've been hard at it. This time with the Shire horses. Right, and Shire horses, as you know, the stallion is not in the next village anymore. Sometimes you have to travel as far as Carnarvon, as Ramsbottom, even to York.
Right. Well, and where did you pick?
Ramsbottom.
Sounds like a thrilling little trip out there,
Yeah,
Rob.
and I think it was a very successful mating, so hopefully more Shire foals to look forward to next year.
I'm glad to hear it.
Right, we are thrilled, proud and privileged to be joined today by...
Brother Richard and our dad Roger.
Yeah, we're going to hear all about their memories, and I can't wait to see what they've got to tell us.
Shall we move up one, Rob, on the sofa?
Absolutely.
Oh, just watch your leg, I can't myself.
Come on in, lads. In you come. You've heard our memories of 1989, but with a few gaps that need filling in. Who better than to have our brother Richard, our dad Roger, to help fill those gaps? So, welcome to the sofa, boys. Richard, what are your memories of 1989?
Well, actually, we go back a bit further than 1989, don't we? Because we go back to Home Farm Tea Rooms, which opened in 1981. Those were interesting times too. We were only opening during the summer, but you know, there were a lot of decisions to be made, weren't there, Dad?
On weekends, it was only weekends to start with. We just gradually built up.
Weekends 2 while 6?
Something like that.
It was 2 while 6.
Yeah.
I remember the wage, 50p an hour.
You got a wage?
So much.
Yeah, I did get a wage. Yeah, I was the chap who sat at the front of the tea room and took the money off people. And we had this old till. It was a bit like Arkwright's till in open all hours.
It had a handle on.
Yeah, it had an handle on the side, and it fired out at you. So you had to watch yourself. Yeah. But it never actually had any, because it was from pre-decimalisation. So it was pound, shilling and pence.
Well, sensible thing then.
Yeah, if you say so.
Do you think that opening 2 while 6 goes back to when people perhaps went to church more often than they do now?
Well, it could have done. I would imagine we worked it out for the busiest part of the day. I mean, people did come out to the park.
I suppose they dwelled longer as well back then. 6 o'clock's late to finish.
Well, it is, but tea time, it's not like making a dinner like people do now.
Maybe my mum needed that amount of time to bake all them scones.
No, it was definitely the period that we felt was most lucrative to open.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
It shows how times have changed, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a very limited menu, didn't we?
Limited, but it still stretched me.
Well, me too, because I remember actually as things moved on and I was at college, we would get a couple of lasses from the village and I would do the cooking. And during the summer holidays when I was back from college, I'd open it.
The cooking?
Well, when I say cooking,
we're talking toasted sandwich.
I'm talking toasted, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I was a toasted tea cake champion. And
that's another bit of cooking.
You don't want to burn them, it's all profit.
Well, you don't know, but...
So my dad would be in the back scraping them.
We did cold sandwiches, toasted sandwiches, plain scones, fruit scones, meringues.
Rosemary's meringues.
Anything else other than that?
Plain plain cake with a
Like a
bit of
Victoria.
jam in it.
And a chocolate
and
cake.
cream. And a chocolate cake with cream in.
We did.
That was about it.
We did coffee cakes later on.
Yeah, I don't
I
like
know those meringues, people still talk about those meringues in the
Yeah.
village.
For me, it was a little bit disappointing opening it because we used to have our tennis table in there.
that. We did.
I must admit, I was going to mention that.
You know,
Yeah.
we used to
had
play run around.
Yeah.
We had to prop the floor up underneath it, to hold it up because we were bouncing around too much.
We had our snooker table in the storeroom, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
Just up those 2 steps into the storeroom.
And I actually had my dark room in a little room off the main tea room from when I was at college.
And your beer making kit too.
I brewed me beer up there, didn't I?
Using a fish tank heater.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't sample it, but you did, and you had 2 weeks off school.
I got Home Farm Tea Rooms was not only a tea room, it was a brewery,
Yeah.
it was a dark room, it was a table tennis facility. It
And-
was our playground in the winter months when the cafe were
Now,
closed.
if you go back when we were really young, we had a few pigeons in there as well.
We built a pigeon loft in there,
Yeah,
didn't we?
Percy the pigeon.
How about the lane ends?
Yeah, I think we had some ends in it.
We
yes.
had a few
and now-
couple hundred lane ends in there.
Did we? And now it's where David lives. So
Yeah.
it's had a varied existence.
It has, yeah.
It's had some really difficult creatures in there, but nothing as difficult as it's
difficult
got
as
now.
Before we came, it had a boat in, and
Did it?
yeah, the boat that they punted about on the
the
water at the
Titanic.
bottom. Yeah.
So I'm casting my mind back now to 1981, to the grand opening of Home Farm Tea
Oh
Rooms.
yeah, and a grand opening it was.
And you were in your safari suit.
I was.
And
Daktari.
everyone was dressed to death and keen to impress.
Yeah.
And we had Barnsley's £250,000 centre half, Mick McCarthy, and the floorboard started to creak.
They did.
What did you do?
I went and got as many props as I could and propped it up underneath.
So the joists were sagging,
Yeah.
and you acted quickly and made sure that they couldn't fall through and possibly leave us with a lawsuit that we would have no chance of paying.
That's right. Well, it would have been in real trouble with that one.
Because back in those days, we really had to watch the pennies, didn't we? So
Yeah.
when you had that floor put in, you maybe didn't use quite as thicker timbers as.
I don't think there'd be a structural engineer involved, would there?
No.
They were there. They were the oak timbers that had always been there.
We just chipboard on top, wasn't it? Really.
Something like that.
But it was, I think the difference was there were 70 odd people upstairs.
Yeah, and they weren't. It's not built for that.
Yeah.
Even, but
You might even be the same chipboard that I've got down today.
You never know.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Yeah.
But anyway, I banged in, I don't know, quite a few supports, and
I can remember you doing
and
it.
it held tight
Yeah,
then.
and it saved the day.
And and after that we did a bit more remedial work on it and made sure it wouldn't come in.
So, Home Farm Tea Rooms, strong start, it was very popular,
Yeah.
but it didn't quite seal the deal in terms of providing additional income.
Well, we weren't open long enough.
No.
We had to, but we did it for the busy times, and there was no other attraction other than walking around the park. But yeah, you're right. It was very popular.
But you did put your prices up after the first week.
We
though,
did,
didn't you?
yeah.
You-
I don't. It was 26 or 28 quid we took in that first.
And you were exhausted.
Yeah, we've been working like Billy for 4 hours, which we were quite a bit disappointed that. But then you looked at your prices, and they weren't enough really. And
You've
so
always liked to be value for money, though, haven't you, Dad?
I've always wanted it to be down there more than up there,
Yeah.
because I think it just puts people off.
But you know, you can be a busy fool, can't you? You know?
I suppose so.
But you
Well,
know,
you've
you
got to
try and do the right
Learn
thing.
not to be a fool. then.
We've had a few celebrities round the tea room. I remember Nora Batty used to come.
Yeah.
Kathy Staff.
You know, that was, from, what's it called, the programme now?
Last of the summer
That's
wine.
it, yeah.
Sophie Ellis Bextor visited once.
Did she?
Yeah. You'll not know who she is, Dudley.
Not really.
She's a pop star.
Oh, probably. Yeah, right.
But she visited as a baby with a mum
All right.
who used to host a children's
Janet
TV
Ellis.
programme, Janet Ellis, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Was that Jigsaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So these are minor claims to fame, aren't they, really? Yeah.
Well, you know, going back a few more years, Rob, I mean, do you remember when the Queen came? You know, and they had to, you had to lock the farm down, didn't you?
Yeah, we had to. They searched all the buildings, make sure that everything was safe.
But
And
that
they
was
had my safari suit
1977.
on again then.
Did you?
And Harry Fisher was the mayor of Barnsley. He said, bloody hell, I thought it was Charlie Claw. Now you'll know who Charlie Claw was.
Who was Charlie Claw?
Well, he was an entrepreneur of the time.
Oh, right. And where did you buy your safari suit from? Can you
I
remember?
have no idea.
My mother will have bought it for him, really.
Have you still got your safari suit?
No.
You got rid of it?
He looked a little bit like Roger Moore. He had one, didn't he?
He looked good, didn't he, in it, when you look at the pictures, you know. Because you had sort of sideburns then, didn't you? You were a bit,
Yeah.
you know, looked like,
Well, I had hair and everything.
looked like Dactari in his white safari suit.
I looked a bit like that Spanish golfer, I thought.
Oh, Severiano Ballesteros.
Ballesteros, yeah.
Oh, is that what you were after? Is that the look you were going for? It was always difficult to get Dad to spend money on, you know.
But if you haven't got it,
Unnecessary things.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like our first leaflet when we were opening the farm, I was sort of, you know, I was looking at all the other leaflets that places had got, you know, they're all full colour and glossy. And I said to my dad, can we have a leaflet, Dad? And he said, well, first year I don't think we even had one. And then he relented because maybe we ought to be handing them out, you know. And I said, well, can we do a colour one? And he said, why would you need a colour one? You need black and white, that's what you need. And I said, well, could we go for 2 colour maybe? And in the end, I battled it out with him, and we got a cream paper with a dark brown and then black. And you allowed me a few photographs on it as well, didn't you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's, you know, and I understand it was.
I was reluctant because I understood that we got to make it pay and we had to pay for whatever we were doing.
With every pound that you take, you might be left with 10 pence. But with every pound you spend, you lose the whole pound.
You do.
And actually, printing cost a lot more back then proportionately than it does now because it's such a more.
Yeah,
it's a more
technical.
Yeah. You know, it was quite a job to make the plates, and then.
Home Farm Tea Rooms is doing well, but it's not filled the void that we need in terms of making a viable income. We're all reaching an age where we're thinking about leaving school.
Yeah.
It's obviously on your mind that you want to create sustainable jobs for all of us.
Yeah.
So what was next, Dad?
Well, I suppose the idea of opening the farm came along then.
Yeah.
I suppose when we'd opened the cafe, it introduced us to that world a little bit.
Yeah.
With customers coming in, and so the idea seemed better still then, because we got something to offer there, and we got people coming to actually be customers. So
can you remember what the first step of the process was? You applied for a grant from the Ministry of Agriculture, didn't you? Were there any planning permissions to achieve or anything?
A diversification permission, I think that's what we needed. I don't think we'd any planning problems,
no, I don't think
because we were just altering the farm buildings a little bit to make it sort of acceptable for people to walk around the farm.
And can you remember how many years it took us to get from taking, you know, slightly dilapidated farm to a point where we were fit to welcome visitors to the farm? It took about 4 years, did it?
Probably.
Maybe 5?
We were taking slates off roofs and changing things. Because by then things had got a bit dilapidated, because I said before you couldn't have enough money to actually repair things, and so we had to devise a method of doing that. And doing that meant that we would have to sell something.
We hatched a plan, didn't we?
Yeah.
We decided we would sell some redundant farm buildings. There were 3 of them.
Well, one wasn't redundant, we lived in it.
Yeah. We decided we would get planning permission
Yeah.
to convert an outbuilding into a house that we could live in.
Yeah.
We then sold the farmhouse. We sold 2 other outbuildings that were converted to be houses.
Yeah.
That gave us some working capital
Yeah.
that we could reinvest into building the farm up to be a tourist attraction.
Acceptable, yeah, yeah.
There was 1 or 2 grumbles, when we were applying for planning permission with the tea room, weren't there? Did you have to go
Yes, I had to do a bit of persuading then, and thank Harry Fish for backing me, really.
And he was the mayor of Barnsley.
He was the mayor of Barnsley, but he lived in Cawthorne, and he said, I remember going out of the room when they came for a site visit, and I heard him say, "Come on, lads, give the lad a chance." So,
And who knows, if he'd not have said that, none of what went after...
it might never have happened.
Exactly,
Yeah.
So really, that was a turning point for us, being able to open the tea room in the first place.
Yeah.
Without that little bit of income, and the encouragement to open the
I think
farm.
the experience as well of actually having a little go at something different maybe gave us the confidence to
go
press on and take that
move.
next step.
Yeah. I mean, you could understand there was a little bit of reluctance among the councillors and such, because they'd always had a cafe, but it had never worked. And they sort of opened it up a few times and had to shut it again. And it was at the time when it was shut that there was no cafe there. So, but they would be thinking, well, maybe we could do this, but they'd already tried it, so he persuaded them to let us have a go, and we did.
So we'll be forever in his debt.
Yeah.
In a previous show, David and I have talked about our first memories of the day that we opened the farm to the public. What about you two? What sticks out for you?
I remember how hard it was for people to push the pushchairs
over
on that limestone chipping that we put down. We thought it looked nice.
It looked really good.
But then all the kids are sort of...
It wasn't so bad if they pulled them backwards, wasn't it?
But you can't go out and tell everybody to...
It wasn't a friendly thing from that point of view, but it did look good for an opening.
Yeah.
Well, it looked better than the sea of mud that was there before.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was on the way out, though, wasn't it?
So we've talked about build it and they will come, and thankfully they did come.
Yes, they did.
As many as you'd hoped for?
Well, when you look back, not in enormous numbers, but it seemed to work for us. It gave us encouragement to go on again and improve again. I think it was 13,000 people came. Yeah. Which now doesn't sound very many, but
It was enough back then just to make a difference, wasn't it?
The money coming in, and I mean, we only charge £1 or something like that.
I think less than that.
50p and 75p, I think it was.
Right.
When people arrived at the farm entrance, we got a little cabin, hadn't we, where we'd bag up animal feed. They would buy the animal feed. They'd take it off into
I don't even
next
think we
place.
sold animal feeds.
We didn't.
First off.
Didn't we?
That was when I met Anita.
We didn't sell anything. We just basically took the money on that thing. And I did suggest to my dad that when school trips came and stuff like that maybe we could sell them a rubber and a pencil and stuff like that, like we'd bought when we were.
And a postcard.
And a postcard, stuff like that, yeah. And I said to my dad, could we invest in these? You've got to order 1,000, I said. And he said, who's going to want to buy them? Who's gonna be interested in buying pencils and rubbers? And I said, but like when we go on school trips, Dad, we do take some spending money and we do buy stuff. And he said, but 1,000, they'll take years to sell them.
We've probably still got them.
You probably have.
Probably
They had
did
rainbow stripes on them rubbers. I can remember them.
All I can do is apologise for not being too...
I drew a little cow logo and we put that on. We can and all farm.
You were just being shrewd, Dad. You know.
Yeah, okay.
But you were never sort of that keen on looking for those extra sales. Like
Well, I
you tend to view the
there
world.
won't be sales. That's all.
You tend to view the world in as if you were the only customer in the world.
Yeah, and I'm not a good customer. I'm better now than I was.
But like when we sold soft drinks for the first time, it was Panda Cola, wasn't it? And you refused point blank to stock Coca-Cola because it was more expensive.
Panda's a strong brand. It's gone from strength to strength.
Yeah.
It was twice as
There
much
was Panda
money, Rich.
Lemonade, Panda Cola, Panda Orange.
It was literally twice as much.
And I also said, people keep asking if it's cold, Dad. And my dad said, well, put it on the ice cream fridge, and then a bit of that cold will come up into those cans, and you can say, I've got it on ice cream fridge. It'll be a little bit cooler.
Who needs Coca-Cola when you've got Ben Shaw's? That's what I say.
Well,
Who's made it big?
But now we do like to sell local stuff if we can.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? Absolutely, and
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely something that people are looking for. I love the fact that we're getting our honey.
So you've come around to my way of thinking.
Yeah, the honey that's produced on the farm into the farm shop. That sort of thing is wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think you've ever been out of fashion. I think people lost their way and have come back to your way of thinking.
So I'll agree with
It's a
that.
good way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not all, let's face it, Dad. It was your idea to open up to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Your idea for the tea room.
Yeah, I think so. It wasn't your mother.
So really, just being a bit negative about branding and
I wasn't being negative. I just found it amusing at the time.
It isn't that bad.
The basic ideas were there.
Yeah.
It just needed.
Well, I mean, I remember when I was about 10 or 11 drawing out a plan for a rabbit room. And we got one in the end, didn't we?
Yeah,
we reared Angora rabbits, and my mum knitted their wool into jumpers that we sold in our first gift shop, which was in David's bedroom.
True enough, yeah.
We'd obviously had the thing in our mind for quite a while, hadn't we? The fact that we would like to go down this road.
Well,
but I think it was finding the money to make that initial investment, and it was only when we got the planning permission through for those buildings to be sold off that we managed to get the thing moving.
Yeah.
And then all of that money was almost immediately swallowed up by a sewerage system.
Well, yes.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. We had to have a sewerage system a bit later on, really a lot better than it was to start with.
There's a lot of money to spend before you even reach the ground, isn't there? All the drains, and it was a daunting prospect, wasn't it? That first sewer that we put down through the farmyard, because obviously without functioning toilets you can't open.
No.
Without treating the waste that you produce properly, then that's not acceptable either. So there's money to spend just to start.
We were digging down 18 foot.
Well, for us to look at to live in the buildings that we were changing, we had to have a sewage system in it anyway. And by the time we got to the top of those first row boxes, we'd nearly run out of money.
Yeah.
So luckily in stepped Uncle Laurie with his digger and
Your brother-in-law.
yeah.
And you know what? There's been times over the years when people just seem to have come along at the right time to help out, haven't they?
Well, probably so. I mean, I was probably there at the right time to help him out with when the holes were dropping in round his farm because of mine working. And he had to bring some stock up here. So
just for the benefit of the viewers, Uncle Laurie had subsidence on his farm.
Yeah.
Which was right next to Redbrook Pit, wasn't it?
Yeah, you took all his animals in to make them safe.
Yeah.
And then years later, he repaid that debt by finishing off our sewer dig when we'd run out of brass.
And he didn't send us a bill. So
No.
yeah.
And it was all a very informal relationship. It wasn't you do that and I'll do that. It was just you did a family friend.
How it happened.
Yeah, you did him a good turn.
Yeah.
And that's how the world worked then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the story of how we opened, Dad. But I've never asked you this. Where did you actually get the original idea from?
Well, we went on a sort of trip down to Devon, and we
Was that trip actually a holiday?
It was a holiday. A
That
trip is
rare and
different.
precious thing.
Yeah,
A family holiday.
It wasn't
Yeah.
a business trip, it was a holiday.
It's probably
Okay.
the one and only
was.
when we all went together,
Yeah.
to be quite honest. So, and we went to Pennywell Farm, which was an open farm on the south coast. Also, at that same time, I'd visited Chatsworth House and the Henson's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Henson's
Cotswold Farm Park.
Cotswold Farm Park. While we were down there, we visited a zoo as well. So all these things were building up in my mind that we could possibly do something like that. So that's originally how the idea came to into our thoughts, and we were already doing the tea room and such. So together with that and the visiting these farms, the idea sort of blossomed. All we needed then was some money to do it.
And luckily, we got the planning permission through in time.
Well, we set it all in motion then. It was a way out for us, and we did, and we managed to sell those sort of 3 properties. Put the other ones up that for us to live in, and away we went.
So this is an absolute last roll of the dice, isn't it? If this hadn't worked, it would have been for sale.
Yeah.
We'd have gone off feeling like we'd failed to a degree.
Yeah, well, we would have failed.
We would.
Yeah, yeah.
And that would have been unthinkable.
Yeah, yeah.
I suppose on the plus side, you had 3 lads who were cheap labour.
Well, I didn't think they were very cheap at the time.
I remember, right? I were on a YTS scheme. I
Yeah.
think you were on it before me, Rob. And my dad actually said to me, he said, I have to pay half your wage. He says, do you really need it? He said to me, £27.50 a week. I says, yeah, I need
It went a lot further then, though, didn't it?
It did go a lot. You could get a nice shirt from Burton's for about 20 quid, I think. So
That sounds a lot.
It sounds
does
a lot to
sound a
me.
lot.
You
I
still
don't-
get one for 20 quid.
I don't think they were 20 quid. But
well, I know they were quite expensive.
I know you could get a pint for not much more than a quid.
A pound a pint.
Well, I can remember when there were about 7p for a glass of beer.
Can you?
Yeah.
Well, I reckon the first half pint I ever bought was in the trade fair I was about 15, I think, and the trade fair at Cannon Hall
Yeah.
in the park.
Yeah.
I think it cost about 38p.
Right.
And he said, I'll serve you this time, but don't come back.
38p.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't enjoy it either.
No, horrible. Bitter. Half a bitter, please.
So that's how we got moving, really.
So we sort of knew that there were places out there that could do what we were hoping to do. We just needed to get it done, and thankfully we did. And the result is now, isn't it?
Yeah.
35 years later, we've had a really good journey doing it. We've enjoyed it very much,
Yeah.
and we've earned a living along the way.
A lot of people didn't believe it would work, though, didn't
Well,
they? There were a
no,
lot of
no,
people
they
in the village who said, well, it'll never fly, that one,
yeah.
that idea. And the bank didn't believe it either,
they
so you had to find another bank.
Yeah. And they must have believed it to a degree anyway. So, but there were only those 3 that I knew were doing that sort of thing at that time. So, yeah, you said White Post set up a year before we did, but the idea was in motion. It's just so we were one of the first, which I'm quite proud of, that we
Pioneer.
Yeah.
And when you look at how the place has moved forward since then, like we've certainly grown
Rapidly.
that business
Yeah.
beyond what a lot of.
We've grown slowly in a way, haven't we? 35
Well,
years is a long time.
It sounds slowly, yeah.
But it's self-funding. You look at some other places, some local zoos and what have you, and they've done what we've done in like 5 years, what took us 35.
But they've had big investment, haven't they? You know, we've had to reinvest everything that we've made year on year into making it better, and eventually.
And we've lived a life doing it. You know, it's not been a means to an end. It's been a way of life.
I've enjoyed it,
and it's given us a life. And
you know, we didn't have an exit strategy, did we? We'll do this. We'll float it on the stock exchange and we'll move on to something else. No. It was just somewhere that we lived and loved, and we wanted to see it be a success, and we wanted to be part of that journey.
Yeah.
If you come from hundreds of years of farming history and you're the last one, it's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. So upwards and onwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what we're going to build next?
Well, that's what we've got to look at every year. You've got to be building something new so that people have something different to look at.
Or replacing something that's getting a bit worn out, like the playgrounds this year.
Well, yeah, that's a new thing, isn't it? It's a strategy that we've done, and I think it's worked well. But
preferably hand in hand with nature and enhancing the environment that we've created.
Yeah, and I think the greenery down the side of that those farm buildings has created more wildlife than
habitat
you could ever. Yeah, but the wildlife
there's nothing less inspiring for any animal or bird than monoculture, is there?
No.
And if you include lots of different environments in an area, then wildlife will naturally flourish.
Well, I don't know anywhere around here that's got as many sparrows as we have, and I think they're a real species in decline. And
we've got rock doves there; they're rare as well.
We've wandered down memory lane beautifully there. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and memories of what's been a special journey.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. Just
Absolutely.
bring it all back.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cannon Hall Farm podcast.
We'll be back next time to talk about another important moment from the history of Cannon Hall Farm.
If you want to see what a modern day Cannon Hall Farm looks like, why not pay us a visit? Tickets are available on www.cannonhallfarm.co.uk.
And don't forget to follow us on your podcast provider and leave us a rating.
Make it a good one, please. Anyway, we'll see you next time. I'm Farmer Rob.
I'm Farmer Dave.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See you later. I think that went all right.
Yeah, eventually, once you've done all your outtakes.